Hello again, this is Robbie, and I wanted to talk today about how we plan our homeschool year. I have 3 boys that we're homeschooling. I have an 11th grader, a 8th grader, and a 1st grader. And instead of using a planner, we use a weekly checklist. And I wanted to go through how and we use this and why. Because initially when I was in the process of trying to plan out my kids' homeschooling year, it was just overwhelming to me. And I know that many people like to plan this out to the exact time of day that they do each subject and plan weeks in advance and have it all lined out that way. And I just can't do that. There are too many things that come up that throw a monkey wrench in our plan, and that would just make me crazy. So I decided to utilize this system, which was actually recommended by Timberdoodle, and so far it's been a really good fit. So if you're the kind of person who would like to simplify your homeschool planning, then stick around and maybe this will help you. Okay, so let me just start with my 1st grader's checklist. This is what a completed checklist looks like for us. For him, this is a little bit different than what it looked like at the beginning of the year, and I do tweak these as necessary, and we don't do these things necessarily every week. This checklist, because it has so many items on it, if we were to stick to this schedule, we'd be doing school way too long on a daily basis. But I did want to have everything on here that we rotate through our school year, because sometimes some of these things are supplements and whatnot, but I want to keep track of what we're doing. So let's just kind of dig into this for just a minute. Now, my older 2 kids don't have as many items on their list, so theirs is a little more complete every week. But anyway, for my 1st grader, as you can see, I have everything broken down by subject. We've got the daily work through the notebook, the language arts, the math, thinking skills, history and geography, STEM, science, Bible, and art. And then within those subjects, I've got each of the things that we typically use. So, for instance, the daily notebook, we don't always do this daily, but when we do it, I want to have a place to check it off. We were on a 4-day week. 1 day a week. The younger 2 kids have classes through our charter, so that's why I don't have any more than 4 boxes per week on most of these items. I do start off by doing the number of check boxes that Timberdoodle recommends. They will typically give you the number of days or number of items that you need to complete in a week in order to finish everything. And so I did start off with this. We don't ever do that much of the Mini Lux. Some of the Mini Lux books were too easy. Some of them are too hard. And, you know, we typically only get to this maybe 2-3 times a week. So, but I wanted to, you know, kind of set it up as if we were going to be doing everything and then tweak it as we go. So, if that kind of system would, you know, make your skin crawl, then this probably isn't a good fit for you. But as you can see, when we get to the older kids, it's not nearly this loose. So anyway, for example, you know, language arts is typically filled out really well. We typically do all of these things on a daily basis. Math, for instance, Math you see is really the only thing we do in our core. These 2 items are supplemental, so they may or may not get done in a week. The Mini Lux is part of thinking skills. We do that 2-3 times a week because I rotate these things. We don't always do these on a daily basis. So I kind of rotate these things in and out. Some days we do Smart Cookies, sometimes we'll do the Mini Lux, and sometimes we'll do Rush Hour Junior. So, but I can easily see as we go through the week where the holes are. And I'll show you a completed checklist here in just a moment. So same thing with geography. Liberty Kids, we started doing that and we haven't done it for a while, but I added it in there because we were doing it and I wanted to keep track of when we were doing it. This is typically you know, done weekly. This is typically done weekly, and this is just done as desired. So again, it's nice to be able to just include the things you don't necessarily do on a daily basis, but then, you know, if you're thinking, wow, what did we actually get done this week? You can look and see, you know, maybe one day you spent, you know, just working on puzzles and talking about the different countries within a continent, or the different states within our own country, or whatever, and you can easily see that, yes, you did complete that. So this just keeps it flexible. And what I love about this is, if, say, we're doing a subject, say we're doing reading, and, you know, we get through a lesson really quickly, and I know he's into it, he's not burned out, he's not ready to move on necessarily unless I make him, so I'll just move on to the next lesson. So that gives me the flexibility, rather than sticking to the plan. You know, I can actually go through here and just kind of keep going. We might do 2 lessons in a day. Same thing with math. If we get done with one worksheet pretty quickly, we may move on to the next one. The mathematical reasoning especially is like that. We can do 4 or 5 of those. Do I have Compass Odyssey? Yeah, Compass Odyssey is a supplement. We don't do that every day, but when he does these, he may do, one day he did 9 of these in a row, 9 of these. So, you know, it gives me that kind of flexibility, which I don't necessarily think that I would allow myself to have if I had it all planned out. If I, you know, unless I wanted to go through my planner and check off the things that were coming up in the future, if we did extra, I just don't know if that would work for me, the way my brain works. So that's how we use this. Okay, so here is a completed worksheet for or checklist for my son, the first grader. Writing, we added in late in the year. So I didn't have it on here, so I added it to the top, and then eventually added it to the list officially. He wasn't ready for writing at the beginning of the year, being in 1st grade, so that's why we didn't do it right off the bat. But this is pretty typical. Reading eggs we no longer do. He completed the lessons in reading eggs, so we don't have that on there anymore. Sorry, I just pulled kind of a random sheet. If we had a day off for whatever reason, I would have written it here to indicate why this would have been more sparse. But, you know, it's this is kind of what it looks like. See, like I looked and I saw we didn't do any STEM that week. Well, we might do something over the weekend for fun, or we might include more the next week. Here's another week. Language arts is pretty complete. Did I add the writing? Yep, see, I added the writing in for this one. And, you know, I can kind of just look at a glance and see where the holes are. And he is really, he likes reading. He's done really well with reading and language arts, so it tends to get a lot of attention. Now that we're at the end of the year, I'm backing off on this and trying to focus more on some of the other subjects that aren't as interesting to him, and that we need to kind of plow through a little bit more. But, you know, this at a glance gives me a really good idea of where we're at. And I can tweak this as we go along. So if we get behind on something, I can add more check boxes to try to get more in during the week. So anyway, that's how we use this for our 1st grader. Now I'll just kind of real quickly show you one of my 8th graders and my 11th graders worksheets, check sheets. Okay, so here is a completed checklist for my middle schooler, my 8th grader. And as you can see, we have it set up the same way. I've got language arts, math, thinking skills, STEAM, Bible, history, science, and art. And this is pretty typical for a week. I see that we were missing a day. We may have had a day off that week. It looks like we probably did. And I would do this. I would write in the margin when we had a day off, just so I would know why this wasn't complete, but I didn't do that in this case. So he keeps his in a separate folder. This is his folder. I just grabbed it and went to a random page, but so he doesn't always do this. But anyway, I keep track of his stuff and make sure we're on track, and if not, then I adjust. So anyway, so this is more typical of what a week looks like. We don't have all of the extra stuff that we're rotating in and out for my older kids, so their checklist is pretty complete. The one thing he hasn't been doing is the graphic Shakespeare, and we'll get into that next year when he starts Shakespeare. It's a gentle way to introduce Shakespeare and to help them understand what the plays are actually, what the different dialogue means. And so we'll do that next year. But so I haven't been on him for that. But everything else is, you know, just basically I looked at each item, figured out what it was going to take to finish it up for the year, figured out how many times he needed to do it in a week, and then adjusted accordingly. So the kid coder, I've got 5 boxes here. We are on a 4-day work week, but I do have 5 boxes on this one because I noticed that he needed to do a little extra on one day in order to get it complete. He doesn't always mark this off, but he is on target to finish, so we're good there. Bookshark, now some of these actually do need to be planned out a little bit better, but on an individual basis. For instance, Bookshark has so much literature in it, it needs to be planned out on a daily basis, but it comes with a instructor's guide that has it already planned out on a 4-day week, so it's perfect. We just follow the guidelines on a daily basis, and it's perfect. Science Fusion, I had to plan that out, and so they have their own system. So I go in and we have 4 modules that we're working on. Anybody who's a Science Fusion or interested in Science Fusion, 3 is really ideal. We're going to be doing science into the summer because I wanted an extra module. That was my choice. So, but they have their own system, and I go in and I do plan this out to the letter. And I do it by module. And so sure enough, if we have something that throws a kink in our schedule, I have to go in and redo it, but I don't have to do it for everything. So I really appreciate that. So this is what my my 8th grader's checklist looks like. And here's a checklist for my 11th grader. This is really early in the year, as I can see here, but he's got a separate folder that he keeps in his stuff, and I just didn't go pull that. I just pulled what I had in my notebook. So anyway, his looks very similar, as you can see. Beautiful Feet has literature. Some weeks it doesn't have any, so that's why, and this was at the beginning of the year, so it didn't have any literature with it, so that's why there's nothing filled out there. Photography he just does on his own, and we're just kind of keeping track of the hours, and we will just give him a credit as soon as he's accumulated enough hours on that, so we don't track that here. And art, we just kind of gave up on art because we were just not getting it done, so we're just not including that. But everything else he checks off as he does them. And again, he likes to kind of plow through subjects one at a time. Like for instance, where is it? Government, painless government. He'll a lot of times just do a whole week's worth in a day. And that just is how he likes to do it. You know, it's not his favorite subject, so he plows through it, gets it done. We have doubled up on this. I had to add more check boxes because we wanted to get it finished up. He didn't finish it up last year, and we wanted to get it finished up quickly, so that's why we did that. And everything else is a 5-day work week for him because he's not in the charter. So anyway, I hope this was helpful to you, and if you have any questions, leave them in the in the comment section, and I do appreciate your comments, and I definitely appreciate you watching today. And please subscribe if you want more videos like this. I have plenty more to do, and we just need to support each other and do this homeschool journey together. Thank you.